Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, everybody, thank you for hopping on to today's webinar with One Resource Group. This is Jacob Locke, Director of Marketing here over at ORG. Today's call, we have National Life Group with Sam Keenan. He's going to go over a segment of our employee retention program. Last week, we had our call over the life insurance side. This week, we'll be going over the annuity piece, which is what we're really excited about. Sam will go through the walkthrough of, hey, here's how you're going to be saving the employer and the employee money. And then, hey, here's how you can pour it into say a group annuity or an annuity at no cost to the employer, where the employee plan's great. We love it. I feel like, every hour we have a call over it. But no, we want to clarify the annuity side of it. And, I'll introduce Sam and swing it over to him, let him do his thing. So have at it, Sam.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Jacob. So I'm excited to be here today, guys. I know you guys have discussed setting up or taking, you guys have the ability to take some savings, save some employers some money, employees and the employer and the employees some money, and take that and use that for products, potential products. And so you guys got different options. Obviously, you're going to be looking at using. It sounds like Jacob, that you guys have already gone over the life side, and fortunately, on the annuity side, it is going to be a lot more simple. Really, it's just about setting up the plan and then deciding how you want to invest those clients' funds. So you don't have to worry about underwriting. If you In certain cases, you won't even have to worry about really even putting in applications for each individual client. All you got to really do is worry about the setup of that plan and then communicating, teaching the plan how to communicate which funds or where the funds are going. But a lot of that is even done by a partner we'll be talking about here. So I think the biggest thing I've been getting questions about from agents that are working in this space and setting up annuities is not so much the product, because the products are fairly straightforward. All of us are aware of what indexed annuities are or fixed annuities are. They're usually pretty straight, especially fixed annuities are pretty straightforward to explain, and that's going to be one of your go-tos here. So it's very easy to explain that you're going to get an interest rate. But the hard thing is communicating to a plan or an employer how that's going to be set up and what that process is going to look like. And then for agents, I find that they also have questions about when to use individual products versus our group product. When you're setting up these plans for a client, the first thing you got to know is National Life Group needs to know about that employer. So we need to know like the employee's name, the employer's name, we need their address, we need a good contact that employee, in case anything's going wrong with the funds as they're sending funds over on a monthly basis. We need all that information. And so how do we get that? Well, we get that from you, the agent, and that's what we call our Form 4258. Really what it is just a new employer form. And again, we're capturing that information like the client, the employer's address, a good phone number, a good contact, somebody at the employer that we'll be working with, and their email address. So no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're going to use one of our individual products, annuity products, or if you're going to be using our group annuity products. That's going to be a form that we need no matter what. So step one, anytime you're adding a new employer, that's a piece of information we're going to need all the way through. The second thing is, I keep getting questions from agents, right? Okay, how do we know when we should use a group annuity versus an individual annuity, right? So really that's going to be up to you. You can use them both in a lot of situations, but we've got some kind of general guidelines to help you guys understand when to use that. So if you're going to use the group annuity, there's one other party involved. We need a record keeper, so we'll be talking a little bit about that and how that process works. If it's individual annuities, then you have to put in applications for each individual client, because you're going to help them choose the individual annuity product that the client wants. So it would be an extra step for you in there. where you put some basic information over, right? You fill out an annuity application for each client. So usually those are pretty short, right? Not as kind of not as much labor as a life application. So but our online annuity application might take 5 minutes, right? It's some general information on the client, date of birth, social, address, email address, and where they want to put their allocation, and boom, signature from the client. You're ready to go there. So pretty straightforward processes on each one, depending on which one you choose. I wanted to show you guys our new employer form. So that's that 4258 form, just so you guys see how simple this is. So it's not a ton of information, right? We're just getting the plan name, again, address, phone number, how are the funds going to be qualified. So maybe you're working with a client and you're going to use their savings to set up a simple IRA. It can be a simple IRA, the funds could be, or maybe you're just trying to look for a way to put some money away for them. In that case, you'd be using non-qualified annuities. So you're telling us what type of plan you're setting up. You get a signature from the owner, and then you're ready to go, right? Then we've got the information we need to set up that plan. So no matter which one you're doing, whether it's the group annuity or individual annuities, you're going to need to fill out this form. The second thing you got to do is decide on which type of annuities you want to use. All right, so this is more of a guideline. Typically, you're going to want to see, if you're going to use the group annuity, we're going to want to see more than 50 employees. And really, that again, that's a guideline for you, because if you've got more than 50 employees, then it might be obviously a little bit harder to go in there and take an 8-minute application on each employee, right? If you've got an 1,000-person employer, that would take a really long time. And so that's when you would pivot to looking at our group annuity, and we'll go over how we set that up. But then if you got less than 50 employees, you're probably looking more in the area where you've got the time to really sit down with each individual client and help them select an annuity that's going to be right for them, or for their individual need, choose an annuity that's going to be right for them. And they also, each one of these annuities has their own benefits. And we'll talk about why the group annuity, specifically with those large plans where there's a lot of turnover, actually seems to be the one that's generating a lot of excitement because of the ease for agents, and then also because of the benefits it offers the employees. So just going over the individual annuities first. So if you did have one of those smaller plans, let's say they've got 25 employees, and you're going to have time to sit down with each of those employees, you need that new employer form, and then you're going to sit down and take an individual application for each of the employees, right? And you've really got two choices. We've got two flexible premium annuities. One is going to be just a straight growth indexed annuity. So it's going to be an annuity that obviously offers some indexing choices and a great opportunity for them just to grow money and save it in that account. And then we've got another flexible premium annuity that offers a GLIR rider, or guaranteed lifetime income rider. So that would be great for those employees that want to kind of fund their own pension, right? They want to know that they're going to have some guaranteed income. So they can choose between those two, and you can kind of help each individual client, and by choosing that product, tailor to the retirement need that they're looking for. So those are your options with that. Some of the product specs on that for our fit growth. This is just some of the general information. I won't spend too much time on it, but there's the big thing I want you to take away from this is there is a surrender schedule on like with all indexed annuities. So once the client is in the product, right, there's a surrender schedule, and it's a 9-year surrender schedule on our secure growth. So big thing to note, the one downside to doing individual annuities for your clients is they're kind of getting locked in for that 9 years unless they want to be hit with that surrender charge. So something to note with the secure growth, and also with the select income, that's the GLIR rider product, it's the same thing. There is a a 9-year surrender on that one as well. Now, both of these products can be used whether it's a non-qualified annuity you're setting up with the employer, or whether you're setting up a simple or set plan. We can use them for all of those situations. When you're going into the annuity app, it's going to be really simple, right? So you've set up an employer, you've given us that new employer form. Now you sit down with the client and you're filling out an app. You're going to choose one of our index annuities. You're going to click on Find Products, and each of those flow products will come up, and you'll be able to select which of those 2 products you're going to use for the client. The one thing, if you've submitted annuity products with us, that's a little bit different when you're using an employer annuity, is you're going to be able to instead of put in the client's ACH or how they're paying their premiums, right? Most of the time when you're setting up an employee's form, an individual, say you're doing like an individual IRA, you have to put in their banking information. But the nice thing about this is once you've given us that employer's information, we're going to take that employer, we're going to put it into our system, and you will just choose salary reduction, and then you're going to be able to find the employer's name in our system. So you won't have to collect banking information. So it'll speed up the process when you're taking that app. So really straightforward, really easy there. A big part of the process, or where we get hang up with agents, is how do we communicate to the employer? How are they sending over those funds? I think all of us have a lot of experience setting up annuities with individual clients, right? But a lot of times I find that agents aren't as well versed in setting up a plan for an employee, right? So you kind of got to get into the nitty gritty of how the employer is transferring over the funds. Seems like a really complicated process, but it's really not, right? You'll have your censuses usually from the fact that you're already working with this employer to save them money. And so you'll just put the information of each client into an spreadsheet, and that employer is going to send a check or some way they can send it ACH for all their employees, right? Every month they're going to send that over to National Life Group, as well as an Excel spreadsheet just showing us each client's name, their policy number, which we'll be able to get and give to the employer so they know, right? And they'll send us over every month an Excel spreadsheet with the client's name, policy number, and how much is going into the account. So again, we're taking a lump sum out of the employer's, bank account usually, right? And then when they're debiting that over to us, we're dividing it up and putting the correct amount into each of the employees' individual annuities. And how we know what's going into each individual annuity is because they're going to send us that Excel spreadsheet with the amount that's supposed to go into each employee's annuity. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy for employers to do. We have all of that. We kind of have a template Excel spreadsheet where the employer really just has to go in and put the amount in the client's name. So and really once you get that Excel spreadsheet set up, the employer's just kind of resending that in every month, unless there's a change, right? Unless an employee's quit, or maybe has some more savings that they want to put away. So really straightforward. So that is the individual annuities, right? So that's where, maybe a little more time if you're doing individual annuities. I think where I get the most excitement is for those big employers, because a lot of people are out there chasing those big whales, right? And they go out and they get a big employer, and it's kind of like the dog that finally catches the ambulance. They're like, all right, what do we do now? How can we possibly enroll all of these employees? So we have a simplified method for that, and that's using our group annuity. And this is where a lot of agents aren't as familiar with our product line here. Almost every insurance agent has written some sort of individual annuity, but there's very few agents out there that have actually worked in the group annuity space. So it's going to be a lot of it's very similar, right, to the individual annuities, but it's going to be able to cut out some of the process time. So you're going to do the same thing in the fact that you're going to have to establish that plan with NLG. So like I talked about, no matter which way you're going, we always need that 4258 form or the new employer form. But after that, we have to add another party in the process. And so that party has its own forms. It's usually like 2 forms they gotta fill out and just to work with that employee. And that that third party is called a third party administrator. They kind of keep the plan in compliance, and what they also do is they help track all of the funds with NLG, right? So they're going to help us track all of the funds, because on our group annuity, what NLG is doing is we are just taking all the funds, putting it in one big pile, right? And then adding interest to it. And what the third party administrator does, or the record keeper, is they take that money and they track what funds belong to what account. They also help with the ACH. So when the employee is deducting the money, the third party administrator kind of steps in and helps remind them, hey, this is when you're being deducted, right? And we need to go over which employees get which funds, and is this employee still with you, right? So they're helping track that, and that makes it really nice for you, the agent, because you don't have to keep up with that plan every month, right? You don't have to go in, and if maybe they forgot on their Excel spreadsheet for the individual annuities, they forgot that an employee quit, right, and is no longer sending the funds. A lot of times they're calling up the agent to figure that out. But with the group annuity, thanks to that record keeper, they're stepping in and doing a lot of that work. They're going to maintain the plan for you guys as it's going through. So again, and then the last part of this, as you're saying, we're capturing all the funds, all the savings that these employees are putting away, and we're going to give them a defined rate of interest. So the two things that usually our TPA partners need, and one we're working with pretty closely is David K. Young, but we've got some other options out there too. That's a little bit where the agent can kind of step in and choose the TPA or consulting group slash record keeper that they work the best with, that they have the best relationship with. But this is one we've been working with on a couple plans, and or more than a couple plans. I think we've done about 20 plans, 30 plans so far with them. And so we've got a great rapport with them. They really know what they're doing, and they really step in and jump in and help us kind of take the employer from point A to point Z. So David K. Young, they need 2 forms. They've got their own form to establish that employer. So it's a form very similar to our 4258 form or our new employer form. They've got their own version of that employer form. And then they've got an Excel spreadsheet, just very similar again to the one that I showed you with ours. And they're going to be helping that employer keep up with that Excel spreadsheet and tracking which funds go to what client. And then from there, they generate statements for the client. So if the client needs to call in and see how much is in their individual account, they can call the record keeper, and the record keeper is going to be able to send that information out. I think they send quarterly statements out, and then also have a portal for the client to go in and track and see how their funds have been growing. And then on the back end, right, if the employer wants to know the overall amount that has been that's being saved, that's where they can contact National Life Group, and we can tell them the overall assets and the plan. The group annuity, I think I kind of teased this a little bit, but the group annuity, what really makes it so nice for these large plans is, as you get to the large employers, you have a lot of employees that are coming and going, right? You have employees, when you've got 1,000 employer plan, you've got at the very least a 5% turnover per year. So that can add up with a lot of people leaving. And so if you're setting up this plan with client savings, or you're setting up a plan to help employees save money, the upside to the group annuity is for each individual employee in the plan, they have no surrender penalty. if they want to leave the plan. So let's say you've got 5 clients that start in a plan and they've been there 5 months, but then they all leave, right? So you have, and this is a 1,000 employer plan, you have 5 people that leave in the first 6 months. How can they get their money? Well, when they leave, they'll just call the third party administrator, take a distribution, and they won't be charged any surrender fees on their plan. So that money is completely liquid to the individual client when they're leaving. Now, there could be some tax consequences, right, depending on how you qualify this account, but they don't have to worry about any surrender penalties. Now, you guys are seeing a surrender charge on this plan. So you do see the surrender schedule, which starts out at 7% and goes down each year, 1% down each year. That surrender schedule is not charged to the individual employees. Again, the individual employee in the plan, their money, their assets are completely liquid to take whenever they want. But the employer, on the other hand, if the employer ever decided to leave and maybe go with a different group annuity carrier, which it's not a ton of us out there, but if they ever did leave, they wanted to just totally use a new company to invest their funds, that's where those surrender charges would take place. So when the employer is trying to change all of their assets. So if your employer ever questions when they see the surrender schedule on the group annuity, if they ever question that, an important thing to bring up is that's not for the individuals, right? So that those individuals, as you're selling this to a plan, the nice thing for them is they're just putting their money away in a nice place where they're going to get savings, and they don't have to worry about any penalties when they do decide to leave. So a great sell for both the clients, and then great for the employees who are setting up this plan, because the employers really want buy-in. They want their employees buying in and saving money, right, and being a part of their plan. So it's easy to sell that when they don't have to worry about any kind of fee when they exit the plan. Also, there's no startup fees for the TPA or for the record keeper. They're not going to charge any fees. NLG's negotiated that. So for having a record keeper in between, you don't have to worry about any plan document fees, any compliance fees. All of that is covered by National Life Group. So the employer doesn't have to worry about paying any extra fees when they set up the group annuity. So a little bit kind of quick there. Oh, I guess the last thing I'll mention is the group annuity has a rate that's highly dependent on when you get the annuity. So it's a fixed rate. Depending on when you get it. Right now, the fixed rate is between 3.5% and 4%. So it just depends on the day, because we got to go get bonds that day to invest, or we invest in bonds that day when they lock in. So depending on when they get that annuity, we'll be able to tell them or disclose to them what their exact rate will be. But again, it's floating in between the 3.5% and 4%. So that means each employee is going to get 3.5% to 4% interest per year on their funds. So that's the positive of those individual annuities, is there's indexing, and each employee would have the ability to earn more interest through the power of indexing. But the positive of the group annuity is that none of the employees have to worry about a surrender schedule. So each one has its own pros and cons, but it's kind of up to you, the agent, to figure out which one would be best in that situation. And as you can tell, for those larger plans, or as I mentioned, those larger plans where you got a ton of employees coming and going, that's why the group annuity just makes so much sense, because then you don't have to worry about, as employees leave, they don't have to worry about a surrender charge on their policy if they want to just cash out their funds at that time. So that's everything, guys. I don't know if we've got any questions, but we're definitely going to be getting out early unless you guys got a bunch of questions for me. Jacob, I don't know if they can chime in or how that works. I've never used the system.
We'll open it up to questions. We already have a few of them, and we'll go through them real quick. First question is there a minimum amount of lives on the group annuity?
Yeah, they do have, we can negotiate. They really like to see more than 25 though, because they've got to make profit off this too. So there's some wiggle room in that, but usually about at least 25 they want to see.
Cool. And does that go hand in hand with Capstone? Do you know if they have like a limit themselves, or is it just dependent on you guys?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them. I
Sure.
don't know what their limits are. I'm not with them. Sorry, Jacob.
No, you're good. Another question here is asking, is there a setup fee?
No, a great question. Great question. No setup fees for any of this. So NLG covers all of that. So we think there's a ton of opportunity. We've had a ton of opportunity from that. So we're covering the setup fees with the plan administrators or record keepers.
Sure. Uh, Looks like we have a few more here. Another agent is asking, was the interest rate 3 or 4%? It was 3, wasn't it?
So on the group annuity, it depends on the date when you enroll this client because it depends on what interest rates are. We go by bonds, right?
Sure.
Um, yeah, so full disclosure, a, a a part of the interest rate, right, we have to take and give back to the agent for the commission. So that's factored in. And then, so let's say interest rates are like 5% at that day. Well, 1% goes to the agent, essentially about that range. It's like an AUM fee, but that's essentially what we have to take out. And then what's left over goes to the employees. So if we go out, if the bond rate is 5%, or the treasury rate is 5%, when you get this, then your clients are going to get a 4% rate. If the treasury rate is 4.5%, let's say it ticks down a little bit, the Fed does move it down, well, then it's going to be a slightly lower rate. Right now, they are holding very steady between 3.5 and 4%. So you can kind of give your employee, as your average, if you're talking to people about this plan, you can give them that range, but you just got to let them know it depends on when they lock in what their exact rate's going to be.
Sure, absolutely. And then we have some more questions rolling in here. I guess this is a question from me. You know, what, at least from a sales perspective, I mean, what do you think the big difference is between doing, whether if it's an individual annuity, group annuity, for this employee retention plan versus doing it, for a life policy? I mean, I guess, why would an agent go the annuity route rather than the life route?
Yeah, so okay, the great question. So one, there's underwriting, depending on the product you have. Maybe you've got a guaranteed issue, but you're still usually you're looking at a simplified issue. I'm not in that space, and I don't know exactly, Jacob, what you're doing on the life end, but usually it's a simplified issue. So what if you get down to it and you've got a knockout question and your client's had a heart attack? Well, then you can't use whatever simplified issue you're using, right? So the annuity, what's nice about it is you don't have to worry about that. So maybe maybe you've got a small employer and you've got the opportunity to ask each employee,
Right.
and so the annuity provides a pivot when you're speaking with that employee. So that's one great thing about the annuities in general. I think the biggest one is when you do catch those whales, right? You've got 1,000 employer plan. You can look at this group annuity as kind of a placement. So you can go and just set the plan up on the group annuity. Because you got 1,000 people, there's no way you can go enroll 1,000 people typically and get that set up smoothly. But you can set up the group annuity and then you can go back. Remember, the funds are completely liquid for each individual. So then you go back and slowly kind of, eat away at that huge pie. And as you're meeting with employees, you can move, like if one qualifies for a life plan, you can move their savings into a life plan because it's liquid, right? So the group annuity really helps, kind of that analogy, right? If you're the dog chasing an ambulance, like when you catch it, how do you capture all of it? Because it's just so many employees. So I think the group annuity has so many positives because it allows you to pivot, and then it also allows for a very simplified issue when you're starting like a huge employer, just to get them started, get them on the plan, and then you can go by and kind of attack the individual employees on a, you know, a monthly basis until you kind of get everybody enrolled and situated. So say you get that 1,000 employer plan, you get them set up in the group annuity, then you go around and meet with the individual employees, and you find one here that qualifies for a life plan. Well, you just move that employee into a life plan. Well, you sit down with the next employee and he's not healthy at all, and maybe he doesn't want life insurance. Well, you just leave him in the group annuity. So it just allows you to do so much and pivot in so many different directions.
Absolutely, man. No, I agree with you on that. It looks like we have 8, 9, or 10 different more questions. I know we're already on 2:30 here, so we'll just answer 2 or 3 of them, and then anybody else that the question doesn't get addressed, we'll follow up with you personally and make sure we get that answered. Real quick to knock out 2 or 3 of them. The question here shows on individual plans, is there an employer fee?
On individual plans, there is no employer fee. No.
Right.
Great question.
Another question is, can this be pre-tax?
Yeah, so you can set up either of these plans however you want. We're not in the K space, so like if you had a, you know, we couldn't use the group annuity in a 401k, unfortunately, because we're just not a 401k provider. But if you have, let's say you have 100 employees, and you're wanting to set up for each employee like a simple IRA, you could use the group annuity for the simple IRA. You could use the individual annuities and tag them as a simple IRA. So absolutely, we can do qualified or non-qualified funds.
Right. And then we'll make this the last question real quick here, and that is, what happens when an employee quits the company on an individual plan?
So on an individual, that's a great question. So they can either just keep the annuity, right, and pay into it themselves. They can leave the funds there, um, not paying into it, just kind of leave it there and let it grow. But if they want to just cash it out and take their funds out, they get hit with a surrender penalty. So the great thing about the individual annuities is they have more potential for growth, and they should. Like an indexed annuity in general, the theory is should outperform a fixed annuity by, you know, should in fact should better fight inflation because you have that power of indexing. So the upside is the client's got more potential for growth. The downside is if we're going to go out and invest that money and give them more potential, we've got to have a surrender schedule on it. So they would get hit with wherever they are in the surrender schedule. If they wanted to walk away with all their money, they'd have to pay that surrender fee.
Absolutely, man. Well, cool. Yeah, like I said, we'll address the additional questions here after the webinar. Your life insurance or annuity marketer here will personally reach out to you. But no, Sam, I mean, this is huge. I mean, like I said earlier, it feels like, you know, every hour throughout the day, you know, we're talking a plan, our employee retention program. You know, we're really excited for it, not only for the life piece of it, but for the annuity piece of it as well. Do you have any final remarks or anything you want to leave off on?
Nah, man, just go get them, man. I know it's a hot market right now you guys are in. I think you guys are kind of one of the first in it, so
Right.
it's all for y'all. So
Oh no, it's huge, man. Well, cool. It looks like it's rolling up here on 2:35. I personally gotta hop off of here and get on Amazon and do some wedding shopping. Gotta get all the decor before the future wifey kills me. So I appreciate everybody hopping on. You know, stay tuned for our webinar coming up here next week. Appreciate all of your time, and if you need anything, you can reach out to me personally. Email is jacob.lock@orcorp.com. Your life or annuity marketer here at ORG. If you want to get in touch with Sam on going in more to the weeds on this program with the annuity side of it, we can definitely get you in touch with him. But Sam, I appreciate your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day, man.
all right, yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.